He's an international DJ and producer who's been DJing for almost 25 years. He's also the 2003 DMC World Champion. All around nice and humble person, today's guest on My Best Life podcast is DJ Dopey. Welcome to My Best Life podcast with Flavia Abadia. We are a new inspirational and motivational podcast featuring people with positive mindsets achieving tremendous things with tips, advice, and life lessons to help you live your best life. Today's episode is brought to you by Crossrope, the highest quality jump rope system on the planet. Get in the best shape of your life today by going to crossrope.com/mybestlife and using the discount code MyBestLife at checkout for 10% off your order. Hello and welcome to My Best Life podcast. I'm Flavia Abadia and today's very special guest is DJ Dopey. He's the 2003 DMC World Champion and just amazing DJ and human being. So welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how did you even get into DJing?
Oh, man. I think first it was just through listening to the radio is what got me initially interested, aside from listening to music. I started listening to mix, like, radio shows.
Okay.
I think some of the first ones were, like, Mastermind and, like, X, like, Toronto, like, Legends, big up Mastermind, big up X. And just listening to them like mixed records, it got me more curious. And fast forward a little bit, my brother and I got a hold of some New York mixtapes.
Okay.
That had a little bit more scratching in it. I think it was DJ Juice.
Okay.
I forget who I got it from, but I got a hold of a couple of these, and that even kind of garnered a more interest in my young mind.
Okay.
And what really, I think, kicked off. So at that point, I was already starting to buy records. This was maybe when I was 12 or something. I started picking up record or two here and there. And then I saw Juice. And then Juice, when that came out, I was like, okay, I got to do this. Because then I think I put the visual finally on how you...
So you saw him in person. Yeah.
Well, okay. Juice the movie. I should clarify.
Okay.
DJ Juice was one of the first mixtapes I got a hold of from New York. And then I saw the movie Juice.
Okay.
And that's kind of what, like, sparked that, like, oh, damn, there's that battle aspect of things. And that's why I kind of veered off to that direction immediately. Because that kind of, I was like, this is insane. It was like one-on-one, mano-a-mano, like, just on some like, just really, like, barbaric shit, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of. In a more calm way.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, so that's how it kick-started, and I've been going since.
So you started buying records, and I guess you had turntables at home. Do you still have those turntables?
I don't. Okay. I started off with, I think I saved up for, it was a Technics D20 or something like that.
Okay.
A turntable that was pretty strong, but it didn't have a pitch control, so I couldn't really mix in the beginning either. So that's why I was, like, kind of stuck scratching. And I had a mixer with no fader, so I was kind of just, like, doing the baby cuts in here and there.
Okay.
Eventually, I begged my mom for a 1200, and I think my older brother, big up my older brother Ron, and my mom, he bought me a mixer, I believe. He was trying to DJ at the time, and then my mom, I managed to beg for one 1200. And then I got away with one 1200 and that other Technics mixer, Technics turntable for a few years until I gathered more money.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said your brothers were DJing too?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Are they still DJing or no?
My older brother fell off. He was the only one, like, trying to DJ with me. I think he just, I don't know, maybe high school life got in the way, girls got in the way. Probably more girls. And he fell off, and I just kept going. Never stopped.
Okay. Nice. So, like, when did you start taking it more seriously or have your first gig?
So, like, around that time, that was probably grade 9-ish, I would say. I was just, like, kind of getting into high school when I was, like, starting to pick up, like, gear. And then I think a few years after that, so I'll just kind of, like, tell the story of, like, the high school, like, how things kind of came to be. I met this guy, Chris Toledo, DJ Cool Cat is what he's named as now. And he and I kind of formed a team, and we were like, I think in grade 10, we were kind of DJing, doing some parties together. First gig, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. It's probably a basement party of some sort with me and him just rocking out. But it was fun. I remember it was like busy and just like madness. You know, a little later in our high school career, we joined teams with our initially who were like kind of our high school DJ enemies. Okay,
your rivals.
Yeah, okay. Our rivals. They were kind of mad because we were coming in as the new guys, and we were getting pretty good fast, I think. Jeff and Chris and Glenn, they were J-Tech, Tantrum, and Il Buddha. Not that they were hating like really bad, but we know that they were like, there's a little bit of animosity from them because these young kids are coming and they're kind of getting better and kind of getting love from the mixtapes. Anyways, rivals. Yeah, so fast forward again, and we're just kind of like, we started playing parties together, and we're like, there's no point in like being these two crews that are like kind of at war with one another. So we decided to join forces, and that's kind of how my first crew was. Well, I guess second crew at that point, but the super crew of high school, which was Turntable Monks. And at that point, when we joined forces, I think is when I really started taking it seriously. And I think around 97 is when a few of us decided to battle in the 1997 DMC like championships. And that's kind of where I first wet my feet in the battle scene.
Yeah. And how was that experience?
It was scary. It was scary because obviously we had been following like the scene, and Toronto already had some heavy hitters. Big up Turnstiles crew, Grouch, D-Scratch, Lil Jazz. They were already heavy hitters. Even in the world like wide scene, like they were already seen as like guys coming up from Toronto and making Canada kind of like known. So it was a bit scary, but at the same time I was like, this is cool, because it was that first experience of like getting in front of people and just like, oh yeah, I could do this, and we did okay. We didn't place. We didn't expect to place or anything like that.
So each of you participated?
I think 3 of us, maybe even 4 of us participated.
Okay.
I think Tantrum, or maybe 3 of us. Yeah. Okay. I don't remember exactly how many.
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
It was a while ago, and it's that same battle we met our rival crew, which are guys that are still in the scene now. M-Rock, big up M-Rock, and Junior Flow of Keys and Crates, big up Junior Flow. Okay. So they were in the same battle, and that's when we first kind of started bumping heads from in our long like history of like battling against one another.
Do you still battle today against them or no?
Not really. I mean, I think we're all friends now. Yeah. So we haven't done a battle. Any of us haven't done a battle like in years. So not anymore.
Okay, so after 97. You tried the DMC Championship, and then what did you do next?
After that, we just kept kind of practicing, trying to get better. We kind of knew that we weren't at that point yet where we'd be winning world championships or anything. But kept practicing, we kept battling. There's tons of little local battles that we were joining. So we made sure to join battles in and around as far as Buffalo to like Montreal. Just kind of get seasoned and get our experience in. And I think, the next year, I think I came 3rd in the DMC 98, Toronto's, which was, which was a big thing for me, because I was like, I didn't make it to the national championships. I think at that point it was only the 1st and 2nd place, but it was good to be like, okay, I can hang.
Yeah. And then I guess fast forward to 2003, when you're competing again, like how did you even prepare for that? And how many sets do you need to have?
So the way DMC works is it starts off as a regional. So Toronto at that time. So you'd have to win the Torontos. And then you'd have to go to the Canadians. And then at the Canadians, you'd have to win to be able to go to the World Finals. Okay. The World Finals would have maybe around 30 DJs-ish.
From all different countries.
And then they'd have to chop that into 11 or 12, depending if the past world champion is defending. Okay. So there's an elimination round on the Saturday. It's a 2-day event. So Saturday is like the elimination round, and then Sunday is the main event, where whoever placed in the elimination round, the final 11,
okay,
will go against like the champion, the 12th DJ.
Okay, so you have 2 sets basically.
Pretty much 2 sets.
Yeah.
But if you're counting like the Canadians and the Torontos, I guess.
Then 4.
Yeah, so like really 4 sets. You'll probably take pieces and place them in all your different sets, but I think it changes a little bit here and there, like from regional to national to world level. Yeah, but prep for that was basically tough. It was just kind of, at that time I was battling a lot, so I had a lot of ammo to begin with. It's just a matter of like fine tuning and kind of choosing which routines I guess you thought would hold up best with the world competition, but it's hours and hours of practice. Yeah. So it's like, that's when I used to, all the time in the day and spend like 8 hours practicing downstairs or something.
Yeah.
In my parents' basement.
So at this point in time, you were out of high school?
It was at the end of high school. Actually 2003 I was already out of high school, yes.
Okay.
Out of high school, in university, just trying to juggle both at that time.
What did you study?
I was in English literature.
Oh, okay. Did you like graduate from the program?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
you went into DJing.
Exactly. So what happened was I was taking part-time classes. Okay. So I was slowly kind of crawling towards like my English degree. Yeah. And then I won the championships in 2003, and then I was like, I'm out of here.
Nice.
So yeah,
and you toured.
I did. I toured like a lot for a few years after that.
So where did you go?
Oh man, all over the world. I mean, places as far as Mongolia to Hong Kong. Yeah. I've been to like Costa Rica. I haven't been in South America, unfortunately. Australia, the UK, Europe. It just pretty much like all around the world, except for I think the 2 continents are like Africa and South America. The 2 that I haven't been on. That's what Kirk said also. Yeah. So to read him. Yeah, I don't know if they're just tough markets to break, but I haven't been able to go there as of yet. There's been a few opportunities, but they've all kind of like fallen through the cracks.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
And now you're still DJing. Obviously, you're an amazing DJ.
Thank you.
I take lessons from him. He teaches me.
Biased.
Well, it's true. Even if I tell someone else, like, oh yeah, like DJ Dopey is teaching me, they're like, oh okay, like
Wicked.
it's like legit.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, what are some of your career highlights or best memories of DJing?
There's a lot. I mean, the 2003 DMC Worlds is definitely, one of the biggest career highlights, if not the biggest. That's like realizing like one of your dreams, really, DJ Olympics, and being kind of like in that moment was insane.
How was that moment?
It was,
you just finished the set that you practiced, and
I finished. I remember at the point where I was just about to go up, and I was kind of like at the sidelines, and I'm just like, I just need to pull this off. Like I've seen all the other DJs, and I was probably the favorite that year. And I came first in the eliminations, which kind of it puts a little bit more pressure on you because
they expect more.
Yeah, they expect more. They know the people know who come on Sunday. Whoever goes last or second last, I had to go second last because there was someone defending. Whoever that person is placed first in the elimination. So there's a little bit more pressure. But the good part was I was able to use older material because sometimes the same people will come both days. Okay. And I feel like you kind of lose a little bit of crowd reaction. But I had 2 different sets. Okay. Which was good for me. I feel like I was the only one that did that year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I was definitely one of the only ones that did that year.
Well, that's better because
totally, because that way you don't lose any of like the impact, right? Yeah. Anyways, it was just such a crazy experience. Kind of like realizing that, like being there and kind of, just talking myself into things a little bit and calm down and like and when I finished I was like I think that was good enough to win. I pulled it off like decently. I think I had a couple skips, but I was pretty confident at that point. But you never know, so still a bit on edge. And then I think once they called second place, I think I realized, I was like, like at the end of the night when they called second place, I was like, okay, I got this in the bag.
And then when they said your name,
yeah, it was insane. I was just like, mind boggled.
Yeah. Did you have your family there?
Thankfully I had my cousin, my first cousin there from Philippines, who had been just moving there.
Where was the 2003?
It was in London at, I think it was...
London, England, yeah.
It was in London, Brixton Academy, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So, historic place. I think all the venues that they have the final at, they're pretty historic, which is cool on its own. Yeah. But I did have some family there. I had a good friend, DJ Woody, there, who's still pretty active in the scene.
Okay.
He's like a person that I toured with earlier, and like so he was like a brother from another mother. So it was great. It was great to have some like really close people in my circle like there to see me, because it's not that easy to make it to London, and it's expensive, right? And yeah, not everyone can come. So
yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it was quite the memory. So that's one of the main highlights. But the second other highlight that I've been talking about, funny enough, a lot the last couple days, or last couple weeks at least, is when I did a performance with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra.
Oh,
yeah. Not a lot of people know this, because at that time, I feel like it was just on the verge of like accessible good video phones. So this was around 2009, 2010.
Okay.
And I think we're just kind of getting into, some phones that were like decently able to videotape.
Because phones didn't have cameras.
Not really. It's almost like you still had to have separate cameras at that time.
Yeah.
So there's not much footage out there. I do have some footage, but it's quite dirty, and I didn't have like direct audio in.
Oh,
so I think it's one of those things that's just lost in my history.
Oh.
There's some pictures, but anyway.
But how did that come about?
So, one of the guys from Live Nation, at that time, he was working at Live Nation, a friend of mine named Ryan. He just came up with me, chatted with me about an idea about doing something different. And we were just tossing out some ideas. And I think he was just going off on like, basically I was just saying yes, no, yes, no. And I think finally he blurted out, what about playing with the symphony? And I was like, I've done similar things with like jazz trios and bands before, so I was like, yeah, that could be interesting. And I think we ran with the idea, and we started like putting it into motion. And then next thing you know, like he was like, okay, we're gonna do this in Pemberton, which was at that time the first festival like out west, kind of like in the Whistler area.
Okay.
Actually, I shouldn't say first, but above Whistler, it was like a big first time festival at this place called Pemberton. And yeah, and I started conversing with the symphony orchestra. I guess he was the main. I don't know if I'd call him the conductor. I don't think he's the conductor, because he was actually in the orchestra. So he'd be the connection for the VSO.
Okay.
And we started tossing out ideas, and we decided on a couple songs that they would remix, play on their own, send to me, and then I would have to like produce something on it. Turntable wise, and practice that way, kind of like. So they made their part, and then I made my part, and I sent them my part so that they could practice with it, and I practiced with their part. And then we had one day, like a few hours to rehearse the day I landed when I got to. Yeah. So
I'm so curious to like how that sounds like.
It was cool. Basically, we kind of we covered two songs. So we did Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve, and Paint It Black by the Stones. And we I think I let them choose the songs because I wanted them to feel comfortable with what we were doing.
Okay.
And because they're all strings, I wanted them to kind of have that freedom of like choosing what they thought would work best in our crowd. But I was responsible for like kind of creating the energy behind it. So yeah, it was a crazy experience, because I did like just a quick 10-minute set prior to that. I think they gave us half an hour. I did like a 15-minute set, kind of just warming the crowd up.
Okay, so you did your thing.
I did my thing.
What music did you play for that?
I think that day I played hip hop, because I think there was a mix of hip hop and like electronic music on that stage. The stage was quite big. I think it was a Bacardi stage, if I remember, or it might have just been. I don't remember exactly what stage, but I was sandwiched in between like. I think his name was Matisyahu. It was like a Jewish MC, actor too.
Okay.
He's a rapper, a little bit different beat wise, but and I think after me was I can't remember now. This was supposed to lead into my point meaning that I kind of fit in anyways.
Yeah.
So I did my thing, and then I kind of stopped or ended it with my last like little performance bit. Mm-hmm. And then we had the VSO behind me with behind curtains.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
like
when I started,
surprise.
yeah, it was definitely an element of surprise. So when I started our tracks together,
okay,
that curtain came up, and it was just I kind of had a little intro for us, which I think I played, and then it went up, and then it was just crazy.
That's so cool. I can't even picture it. So what, they would play something, and would you scratch in between or during?
During. So basically, there was 8 of them, so there's 4 on each side.
Okay.
And they would play their strings, and I basically added all the percussion for it.
Oh, okay.
So I think what I did
play
was
like the beats with the sample pads. Okay.
So what I did was I think I produced a beat sequenced to their strings, and it was like I made it like a live performance juggle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. With some cuts here and there and stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could see it. Well, I guess you can show me the...
Eventually, I think I do have it. I might have it on YouTube, and I might just have made it private.
Oh, okay.
So I could probably send it to you that way.
Yeah. Make it public. We want to see.
But that's another highlight. So that was highlight number 2. And then,
nice.
Those are the 2 main career highlights, I think, at this point. That's still kind of, I could always tell in situations like this.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've traveled around the world. I want to know more about these travels or adventures you've had traveling, like cool experiences.
Wow. There's going to be a lot.
Tell us.
I've been on quite a few tours. Some of the highlighted tours are like, I did a tour at that time, which was, I think, Super Rappin', the label, based out of Germany. My buddy was running the US side of things. So I toured with Loot Pack, which is Madlib, Wild Child, and Rome's. Amazing group for any hip hop out there. Madlib, obviously, the genius that he is. And then a couple turntablists, Woody, the guy that I was telling you, my homie that was there when I won, and Petrix, another amazing DJ from the States that, definitely had his hand in carving like beat juggle styles and stuff like that. So I'd have to say, actually, I can't even forget, D-Claim was on that too, and Jay Sands. So just a bunch of artists at that time that were really, really bubbling. And this was definitely one of the highlight tours in my career because it was also my first time around the States.
Okay.
And kind of doing States shows is, it's different. It's different from like doing the Canadian shows.
How is it different?
I think at that time we were still carrying a lot of records and stuff, so we were geared more to performing rather than like playing records. But I could tell that like different records that were working in Toronto in terms of playing music and getting the party going, records that were working in Toronto were different records that were working in these other cities in the States.
Okay.
So I think that's where I kind of got that first inclination that, Toronto's not the center of the world.
Yeah.
And the scenes are very different. And that, I think that tour really kind of gave me the insight on how different scenes and how similar some scenes can be. It's not all different, but we all really, I think, were drawn to hip hop. I think that's what that tour was about. And
so you guys were all on the tour together the
all
whole
in
time?
the tour.
Wow.
One bus or one van, 14-foot van or something like that.
Okay.
And it was quite the adventure. We went through, rain, snow, sleet, almost running out of gas in the middle of Nevada, nowhere to get gas, and we literally had to ride out the hills to be able to make it to the next gas station. And I'll always tell people that because it was the scariest shit ever, because it was getting dark and we're like, what the hell are we gonna do? We're running out of, like, we're literally out of gas. And so what we did was, like, every time we would hit a hill, all of us would make our way to the front just to be able to, like, gather more, like, momentum. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'd like to say that it actually worked because we made it to that gas station on fumes. Yeah. But we did make it, and I think we made it to Las Vegas that night, and I think we partied because we were like, we were
You made it.
Yeah, we made it. We were ecstatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was one of the fun tours that I've been on, and that's kind of like the fun memories. And I remember getting pulled over early, and we had a ton of, I don't even know if you want this said, but we had a ton of like weed on us.
Yeah, that's okay. I put explicit on the podcast not to
cool.
like limit people to what they want to say. Yeah.
So we had a ton of weed. Cop stops us, and luckily we were able to talk our way out of it. I don't even know how. It stank of weed, but they let us go. Thankfully, because none of the guys...
They're more strict in the U.S.
They're more strict in the U.S.
Especially back then? Or no?
I mean, probably more so now. But I think they were always strict.
Yeah.
Especially with a car full of, immigrants. I don't think... Oh, actually, there was one white guy, but he was from the U.K. So he was he too was like an out of country guy. So, it was just such a scary moment for the tour, because it was almost over before it started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where were you at in the tour? Like,
funny enough, I think we were close to like Weed, California.
Okay, but was it at the beginning of the tour?
It was right at the beginning of the tour. We were just making our way up to like San Francisco, I think. Okay. To do the show there, and I think in between San Francisco and LA, there's a little, I don't know, city called Weed. I think we got pulled over in Weed, California.
What?
How ironic is that? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't even make this up. Like, we totally did. Maybe we should look that up. I'm pretty sure there's
a Weed, California?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like interesting, like, travel stories like that. If you have more of, I don't know, in Asia or
totally
Europe.
There's totally a Weed, California.
Oh, really?
And let's see if I'm right. If it's in between LA and it's close to the coast. It was there's San Francisco. So actually it was San Francisco to Portland. I think we might have been going to like, I think our first show might have been in Portland.
Okay.
So we're driving up. There's your proof. San Francisco. Yes. So we're driving all the way
north of
out.
Sacramento. Yeah.
So we're driving up to Portland, and we got stopped in Weed, California, right before Oregon. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and what about these other stories?
More stories? Okay. I mean, there's so many to tell. I'll just pick one out there that's like kind of, I don't know, adventurous, I guess.
Okay.
So I was doing a bunch of shows in China with an old school Toronto guy, and actually a couple old Toronto guys. His name was Kwame is one. I don't remember what he went by at that time. It might have just been MC Kwame, and MC Vandal. I don't even know if he goes by MC Vandal. I think it's just Vandal. Big up Vandal. That's my homie. But he's old school Toronto Cryptic Souls. Toronto guys will know that reference. It's such a classic Toronto crew, b-boys, graffiti artists, DJs. But he took us to China, and we were doing like a bunch of shows out there, and we had to get from China to Mongolia.
Okay.
I think we had a limited budget, so we decided to take the train. And this train ride was like 24 plus hours.
Oh, wow. That's a long time to be like stuck in a train.
It's a long time to be stuck in the train. And it was, you basically go through the desert.
Okay.
Like I think it's called the Gobi Desert, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
We should look that up too.
Geography.
Gobi Desert, and I'm right. There you go, between China and Mongolia.
Okay.
I'm not that bad after all. I do know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we took this train, and it was the longest train ride of my fucking life. It was really dusty because as you go through the desert, obviously it's all dust. So we would always have to clean off like layers of dust off our like table, off our like kind of like mattresses.
Oh,
yeah, it was kind of nuts. And in the middle of this train ride, when you're getting into Mongolia, Mongolia has different train tracks. So there's a station where you get pulled out, not get pulled out, but your train gets lifted, and they change the tracks on the train.
Oh.
Yeah, they change it because not the tracks, they change the
like wheel things.
I don't even know what they're called. The wheels on the train, because the tracks are different in Mongolia. This happens like in the middle of the night, And it's also customs. And I remember them like just barging in, Mongolian customs, just barging into a room. I think I was half asleep. And they're just like, what are you guys coming in here for? It was quite scary. I was like, we're just coming up to visit friends. And I don't know if you need a visa to work in Mongolia, but
okay.
I just remember it being quite intense. Or maybe I was just half asleep to kind of like function properly and kind of comprehend what was going on. And maybe they weren't that scary after all, but I felt like maybe I was just scared from like waking up.
When you're also when you wake up, things are unfamiliar, but when you're in a new place, you don't know anything going on or the customs or it can be, you're out of your comfort zone. Exactly. So I was just like waking up to that. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? But we ended up making it through. The Mongolian show was interesting. It's kind of a whole adventure going to Mongolia because it is such a different world. People were amazing. Number one thing I have to say. People were amazing to us. And, they were pretty damn holy people and just like just nice people in general. Like very, very welcoming and But the club, getting back to my point, at the club, it was the weirdest experience I've ever had. I think to this day, it must have been prime time, maybe 1 o'clock. Parties jumping off. I think I'm DJing, and a bunch of cops just come in. Stop the music, and I don't know if they were just looking for someone specifically or something like that, but they stopped the music. They kind of have a look around, and then eventually, and a couple minutes later, the club promoter was just like, let's go. Back at it, and it was just like back to like it was just like didn't miss a step. Like I don't know, there's nothing. Oh, I guess people are used to that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
I don't.
The party just stops, and then
they stopped the party, and I had to stop the music, and this lady cop came up to me, and I couldn't understand what she was saying, but she made me stop the music, and they did their thing, whatever they were doing. I had no idea. No one's. I'm just kind of like, I have no idea what's going on, and. Yeah, and then eventually, a couple minutes later, she's like, let's go. Let's play the music again. And then
she told you to play it again?
Not her, but the promoter. I think the promoter was a woman. And,
the mediator, I guess.
Mediator, and we got back into it. And I think, we went. The night turned out still pretty good. And no one skipped a beat and no one missed a step. Interesting stories of Mongolia.
Yeah. So, do you have any other cool stories?
Oh, man.
Like Europe, or I don't know, because the average person doesn't get to travel
for sure
everywhere doing a tour. So.
Definitely. Oh man, there's so many. I'm just trying to think of like some of the highlights of like Europe. Good stories in Europe. I mean, the DMCs were, aside from touring, I went to the DMCs, which was London every year for, I don't know, maybe a good 5-6 years.
Oh, okay. Just to watch, or did you compete again? Or?
To compete, like, because they had different categories. So there was a team battle. This came a little bit later after my initial first DMC. They implemented team battles, head-to-head solo battles.
Okay.
So I was in a few of those prior to doing
winning.
the 6-minute, like the big one. And just going to London was quite interesting because it was just kind of like a get together of all like the best turntablists at that time. So going to London every year, it was just you would always look forward to it because you would learn so much. You would hook up with so many DJs in and around the world, and I just remember it being such a whirlwind of like media and events and that kind of thing, and the experience in itself will always be kind of important, pretty important to me, because meeting friends that I still keep up with to this day, and seeing like how far the DMCs have come, even though there was a little bit of a lull, I think they're starting to like kind of come back around now. I don't remember where I was going with this story.
You're going with cool stories in Europe and how you go to London every time. And yes, it was cool.
It was basically, every year we would go to London. A few of my friends would come sometimes, and it was just a party for a week that we were there, partying with other DJs. The experience of like basically your hotel room there's certain hotel rooms that were scratch rooms or like practice rooms.
Okay.
And every night we'd go out or we'd go check, like at that time there was like really huge like London venues, like Fabric was huge in London. So we would go there to like hang out, and then we come back and scratch like all night with a bunch of DJs. And it was just the experience on its own that was such a cool thing, because you would be in the room with like, you know, someone from like China, and then like maybe the Irish DJs there too, or
that's cool.
Yeah, and then the US guys, and there was always a bunch of guys like in a room that would be, and it was, the camaraderie was pretty cool. Like I don't think like there was a lot of you know, headbutting and stuff like that, so everyone seemed to get along well. And yeah, it always holds like kind of like a special memory in my head to be able to go there every year for like, yeah, at that point, and just seeing people on a regular for a year that you know are into the same thing.
Yeah,
was great. Yeah.
And I guess not everyone spoke English, right? So you speak through music.
Yeah, you speak through music. It was kind of hard. Like I remember, you know, a lot of the countries that had the DJs, the representatives, like the people that repped DMC would always be pretty good at English, but then the DJs would sometimes not know a word of English, and it was so difficult. But you kind of get by because music is such a universal thing.
But then is there, I guess, if you're at the DMCs, there must be a person who speaks that language to help them, or be like, so, you're next, or
for
whatever.
Sure, for sure. So a lot of the times the DMC representative would become that kind of like translator as well. And they would kind of stick around their DJ. They would, you know, chauffeur their DJ around just to make sure that they were fine, which was great. DMC was great to us, and the people that were running it at the time, like the people that represented the countries, were all great. Big up Chris Kendall and Giselle. They were like old school DMC Canada people, and they're, I don't know where they are now. I hope they're well, but they've always been super nice to us here. So yeah,
nice.
Touring is a blast. There is a story with every city usually that you go to, whether it be like a drunken story or fights. I've been to tours, like I think, you know, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in like Yellowknife. I think it was Yellowknife. It was just such a weird thing for me to see, where a fight broke out between two guys, and
in the club that you were DJing at? Or?
I think we were outside at that point.
Okay.
And the locals let them at it. It wasn't that rough of a fight. There was two drunk guys. And what I was so kind of like thrown back by is that apparently this happens almost every night. These guys will fight.
Oh,
every
the same
night.
people.
Yeah.
Oh.
So these two guys just have this rivalry, and they'll fight like, you know, every night. And it was such a movie moment to me, and I'm like, this is like a fucking like comedy or something. Like,
that's
these
weird.
guys, because they're not, I mean, they're throwing each other around, they're not punching too badly. Like, that's
well,
I think
you can't properly when you're drunk.
Yeah, no, you can't. But it was just one of those moments for me. I'm like, man, so this does happen in certain places. Like, these two guys fight all the time, and it was like a regular thing, and they just let them duke it out, because they're never really gonna hurt each other that much. I think they're ready to kind of stop it in case it gets too crazy. But I think generally they just kind of toss each other around and call it a night.
Okay.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's from touring. I don't remember who. I think I was touring with like DL Incognito at that time, Tech 12. Yeah, so that was one of those interesting nights.
I love the excitement that comes with traveling and just discovering new places. Like, that's...
It's true. It's such a...
so much fun, and you have like, I don't know, the new smells, the new weather, the new everything. It's
totally
exciting.
Totally. It's a cool lifestyle. Like, it definitely is like one of those things that you get it in when you can, because I feel like at this point in my life, I don't mind not touring anymore, but it was definitely a fun time in my life. Like, where you'd be waking up in a new city every night. I've done like the bus thing, or like we've done camper tours where in Europe we were camping in like campgrounds in and around Europe in between shows, which was great because it was like actually calming at the same time, because we'd have these like crazy shows, and then we'd instead of checking into a hotel, we just like, check into a campsite, and we have a trailer. We had everything we needed, and which, it was cool. That was with that Celebrity Status. Big up those guys too. I've worked with so many people, so there's like so many tours and like,
and I guess you save money when you're in a camper too.
Totally, and I think that's partially what it was too. Like without the, the hotel costs, we could put that money back into our bus or our pockets or whatever. Right?
And you fish too. Like you like to go fishing.
I do like to fish. Fishing is like.
Did you fish at that time?
At that time, I was fishing, but not like tours. I guess it's a bit tough. Nowadays, if I do, when I do travel, I will try to look for like fishing opportunities, like if I can. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think as I grow older, I'm just like, this is cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if fly fishing specifically, like I don't.
Okay.
Not to knock any of the other styles or any other types of fishing, but that's the one that really hits kind of like a chord with me.
Why? Like I don't know anything about fishing. So.
For fly fishing, I think it's a few things. It's for one, it can be very scientific. Okay. It's not that like, cut and dry, easily kind of like you use a worm type thing and you're catching fish. It's really trying to figure out a lot of things, and I think that appeals to me. And the smaller like the summer style fly fishing that I like is very like entomology based, so you kind of have to like learn about bugs and like learn about what time of the season it is and what comes out at that time. So there's that. And then later on in the year, when I like to fish for like the bigger fish, that anadromous fish that come into like the rivers from the sea or the lake in our case, for that it's like big flies, and you're swinging flies across the river. And for that, I think it's, aside from like the rhythmic aspect of things, I think it's tying my own flies, and it's kind of being out in the river and kind of just like exploring and stuff like that. Really, I'm a big explorer. I always was when I was a kid, so I just like to get out and like, fuck off by myself for like an hour, or not by myself. It doesn't have to be, but I do fish on my own. So yeah.
Was it hard to do that at first? Because you're surrounded by music and like loud stuff and like cutting, and then you're in the nature and there's like no music. Well, I guess there's music from the trees, the birds, the water.
I think the opposite is what probably drew me to it, is the night and day things of it. I am a Gemini, so like I think that's why it kind of makes sense. It's like two different people that kind of. But in my mind, it makes sense completely. But
I guess it's balance.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that's what kind of drew me. Like for a while, I wouldn't listen to music. Nowadays, I will listen to some music, but not all the time. I do like the sound of the river and like kind of just like being in nature and not really hearing anything but like yourself and what's around you. But yeah, so I think that was part of the appeal in the beginning. But now it's like, it's a little bit different. Like, I think I like thinking and listening to music even when I'm out there. Okay. If anything, one ear and then one ear. As DJs, I feel like we can really separate, or as producers too, you could really separate sounds. And so I don't mind having like one ear music and one ear like to the nature. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, that's definitely one of my loves that I will try to incorporate into future work. So that's, one thing that I'll look at, hopefully kind of putting together with music.
Okay.
Somehow. You
can make, actually the producer I work with, he made a beat out of all nature sounds.
Interesting, yeah.
So like, I forget if it was like a woodpecker for like one of the percussions, or like crazy. Water, or like banging sticks together.
Yeah, totally.
You could do something like that.
For sure. Experimental shit, right?
Yeah. And put scratches in there.
Totally.
Cool.
It'll definitely be one for a track at least. Like,
I'm like excited to hear this. It hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't, because I actually haven't brought like a recording device out on the river yet, but it totally will happen.
Cool.
For sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm excited. What are some lessons you've learned along your journey? Because you've been doing this a while.
Man, a lot. What haven't I guess. I mean, I think the main thing that I will take away from the industry and the music that I've done through the years is just I feel like it's just kind of stay true to what you feel is true to you. Mm-hmm. You get led in so many directions, especially when you get to like a certain, place in your career. If you're successful, even if you're not successful, hopefully you're successful. Okay, let's start that again. So in your journey in general, in life, you will get directed to a lot of these side streets. And I feel like it's good to kind of veer off. But at the end of the day, kind of try to, as an artist, as someone that has a voice, that someone has that power to kind of influence, stick to your heart, stick to what really drives you, and stick to your lane, I guess, so to speak. And find that, realize that quick and run with it and stay in that lane. And because I think that's the way to go. And no matter what your definition of success is, I feel like you can get there by, not getting too straight away from what your heart is telling you to do. Yeah. So I think if I could take one thing away, I think that's it. Because, after years and years of this industry, there's so many things that you could do, so many things that you could kind of get distracted on. But I feel like it always comes back to, what your heart is calling for you to do, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So, listen. Yeah,
that's a really good lesson.
Yeah.
And what is your heart calling you to do?
I think at this point, definitely less club work. And I think I'm definitely more destined for more studio stuff. If it's not club stuff, it will be more performing my own stuff, I think is what it is. I think I've longed for this long enough. And I've been kind of drawn to it long enough that it's time to kind of make that transition.
So your own stuff, you mean your own production?
Own production, yeah, and trying to, put a live show towards that production, whatever it may be, or
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's kind of where I want to lead things and stray the Dopey name towards.
Okay. So when did you start producing?
I always dabbled, and I got my stuff together ages ago after I won the championships, and I always did dabble, but taking it seriously, I don't know, the last few years, I guess 3 years or something like that is when I'm okay, this is the next step. So yeah.
And where can people find your stuff?
They could find, if you search DJ Dopey, one word, on SoundCloud, you could find it on SoundCloud. You could also find it on Bandcamp. There's not much on Bandcamp yet, but SoundCloud, I've been trying to keep up. So there's some tracks on SoundCloud, and I think not all of them cross over to Bandcamp. So I guess check out SoundCloud for now. Yeah.
And you also have some DJing videos on YouTube.
I do. So the YouTube channel, I think, is just DJ Dopey. I think that's a good way of just kind of keeping myself kind of seen and still relevant in terms of what's going on now, because it's all about IG and these little videos. So yeah, you got to stay up on that stuff. Yeah.
And is there anyone you'd like to work with in terms of production stuff?
Production wise, man, there's a lot of dudes. But in terms of realistic 2018 stuff, definitely Headspin, definitely Pump, which we're kind of doing now. We've been working on some stuff. I guess if I was thinking really, really big.
Think big, yeah.
Think big, guys like K Trinata, who's always kind of catch my ear all the time. People that are in the Soul Action camp, I guess they've kind of been, I've been vibing with their stuff recently. Man, there's too many to name.
Put it out there. What if someone knows them and they're listening to this podcast and they're like, yo, DJ Dopey wants to work with you. And they're like, oh, sick. Let's do it.
Totally. There's so many. Keitra definitely for sure. Keitra Nada, I'm just man, I love this guy's work. And I'm like, would love to do some just fool around shit, whatever it may be. Yeah.
And when did you start teaching? Because you teach DJing.
I do teach.
Private classes and stuff.
I started initially just by doing kind of workshops.
Okay.
At conventions and stuff. And that kind of led me to want to teach a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
So when did you start teaching at conventions?
It was spotty. Like it's been going on for like the last maybe, I don't know, 10 years. Even when I was on tour, sometimes I would get asked by a school, early DJ schools at that time, to do little workshops and stuff. And from that, I think I took just little experiences and was able to build like a little bit more, which I had the opportunity to do at Regent Park School of Music maybe 3-4 years ago now. And that made things a little bit more real, because that I had to like hold down a class and make like an actual
program
curriculum, and not stick by it, but like have an idea of like where I'm directing these kids. The program's for kids, and that's why I started doing like the private lessons as well, because I couldn't bring in like some of the people that were inquiring.
Yeah, you can't bring like adults to a kids class.
Exactly. So so ongoing 4 years or so. It's been good, yeah. And students have been, including yourself, have been like, I could see steadily getting better, which is great, which means I'm doing a good job and you guys are doing a good job. So
and where do you want to go from here? Like, what is there anything you want to share?
I just, I think I'm in this transitional period, and while I'm in a transitional period, I would like people to kind of be patient. There's that transitional period is kind of like growing your hair, like I'm doing now. There's always a weird time. This is probably the weird time, and it's like,
okay,
there's gonna be that weird time that kind of leads you to the better hair, okay, so to speak.
That's cool. Well, you've always gone for it, and you're going for it now again.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of time. Yeah, like it might not be this year. Hopefully, I'll be able to put out like a record or two.
Nice.
And we'll start there, and we'll see where it goes. So stay patient with me, please. And things will come. And I'm still in the city. I'm still DJing a lot. So I'm still rocking. I still enjoy it. DJing will never be not enjoyed for me. So I'll always take gigs that I feel like will be fun for me to do. And so you could still catch me in that way. But I just don't want to be, DJing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday anymore. I'm getting too old for that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was nice having you. So if you have any questions, please email us at info@mybestlifepodcast. And where can they find you again?
At DJ Dopey at most things. Like, I think IG's at DJ Dopey, Twitter's at DJ Dopey. Look for DJ Dopey on SoundCloud, just one word. And same with Bandcamp, my Facebook fan page.
And look out for his future projects and maybe a show near you.
Definitely.
And message him if you want him to come out to your city.
Please.
Okay, thanks for listening. Till next time. Bless you.
I know. Hopefully you're able to edit. I could re-say all this. Maybe I do need a Kleenex. You have one?
Yeah? Okay.
It's a good one for the B-roll. Dopey blowing his nose.